also think that's where the whole problem with echo chambers comes in, because if I'm only surrounding myself with people that tell me things that sound sweet, things that sound promising, nothing sounds negative at all, then I'm surrounding myself with the wrong people. It's the equivalent of having a yes man at work. If you know the work is done improperly, and I'm asking you, hey, is everything okay? And this person's like, yeah, everything's fine. And when the whole operation goes down, I don't have anybody to blame but myself because I put that person in charge. Just like everyone else puts certain people into their lives. So I'd much rather have somebody that's going to be brutally honest with me and say, hey, yeah, you're fucking up here. You can't do that. Versus, yeah, go ahead and do it. It'll be okay. You know what? I'll do it with you. And then both people end up dead. So.
Yeah, true indeed, man. True indeed. I'm watching out for those kind of people.
Hey, right.
I don't need them around. Let me know I'm messing up because I'm far from perfect and I need some help.
Yeah, amen to that, man. It's like, yeah, you can go ahead and put a 45 and a 9mm. It'll work.
Right.
I had somebody do that at one of the ranges I went to. I was what was I think I actually picked up. No, I didn't pick up my Ruger there. I was just asking about 300 Blackout. Yeah, I remember. I was getting ammo while I was doing the FFL pickup, and I asked the dude about 300 Blackout, and he said you could fire from a regular rifle. And I said, well, I read that you couldn't shoot 300 Blackout from 300 through what was the other one? 300 Whisper, I think he called it. And I'm like, no, that doesn't sound right. Because if you can't put 300 Blackout in a 5.56 223 barrel, then I think the same applies to firing it out of that rifle you're talking about. And he said, yeah, well, I do it all the time. It's perfectly safe. And I remember the other thing I asked him. I was asking about the wild barrel. The one where you can shoot 223 and 5.56 out with no issues.
Yep.
And he said it was called a Wildy barrel.
What?
So
I mean, it is spelled with a Y, but what?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know there's a what's the guy's name? Lead singer of the Black Label Society. His name is Zach Wild, right? He spells it WYL, and then I don't know if there's two L's in his name, but whatever. That's how I'm looking at it. Like, okay, cool. It's pronounced wild. Right. So if you're already giving me the wrong information, and then you're making up these, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons fantasy names, I don't know if I can trust you.
Right.
I mean,
true indeed.
A Wildy barrel sounds like it should be made out of wood with like a stone handguard and it shoots out magical stars or something. It don't sound trustworthy.
Right.
So, like you said, you got to watch where you get your information from and who you listen to.
Yeah, true indeed.
That's why I'm still alive today, man. Damn,
there's a lot of bad information out there.
Right. Yeah. Especially in the second, the 2A community. Yeah, you got to watch out.
Yeah. You see it in the post. Someone will post something and there'll be X amount of comments. And most of the time, the majority of the comments are wrong. You're like, no, that's not true. No, that's not. No.
Right. You get that one person that's in their feelings. Like, that's wrong. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to just leave it alone. That's wrong. Okay. Why is it wrong? You do your own research. Oh, okay. Appreciate it.
Unfortunately, a lot of people just repeat what they may have heard. And sometimes when you repeat that, you're not repeating it the exact way it was told to you, one. And then two, the information might not have been good anyway. Like, you might have gone somewhere and like, yeah, the Wildy barrel, and started, repeating that to someone else.
Right.
And that's how it kind of works. And like getting your information from a random gun group is probably not a good idea, considering that most of the people in these groups, to be honest, just they don't have any training or much experience. They're not real shooters. And that's not knocking them. It just is what it is.
Yeah, it's the mindset of, like I said earlier, you purchase a firearm and you think you're good.
Yeah.
You can't. And granted, I know I need to go to the range more. And I'm actually looking into getting training. The way my my bank account is set up right now, you know. But I'm definitely going to look into getting more training, as a matter of fact. Um, but you just got a lot of people that think that firearms good enough, I'm good to go. Or one of the things that I dislike, I got a laser on the gun, I'm good. Like,
Man.
I got this red dot, green dot. All I got to do is put it on somebody, and that's it. Like, nah. There's a lot more to it. And I know
Oh, wow.
that's typical noobish rookie stuff, but you just can't put it. Look, I'm just cover the whole range. You can't put a scope. You can't put a red dot or a green dot on a handgun. You can't put a scope on a rifle. You damn sure shouldn't put a laser on a rifle or a handgun, in my opinion. I guess if you're special ops or something, cool. But this is my opinion. I don't really see the point of a laser. And there's so many other things. You shouldn't have your gun set. You shouldn't have let's say a AR pistol, right? If you have an AR pistol, but yet you've got like some sniper furniture on it, you shouldn't be doing that. That doesn't make any sense. Now, if you got some some CQB stuff, some close quarters battle stuff on it, to me that makes sense. And by no means am I former military or anything. I'm just a regular civilian, but I try and study what I can. And
Right.
when I heard that, it makes a lot of sense not to put anything related for long shooting on short barreled rifles, because number one, you might not be able to shoot the same distances out of a pistol as, say, actual carbine length AR or rifle length AR or whatever. You might not be able to do that. It's going to fall short. And two, it's like if I put an ACOG scope on a AR pistol, to me that's kind of counterproductive. I need quick movements so I can go ahead and point it to where I need to go. I don't need to point, try and zoom in, focus on what I'm shooting at, especially if it's literally 7 feet from me. So just small things like that. And the laser, I definitely hate lasers. I don't understand the point of lasers. Like you're telling somebody where you're shooting from, especially in your house. So you got a flashlight and a laser. Number one, you should know the layout of your house, and number two, if you don't know the layout of your house and you're walking through the house and the person breaking into the house has now done some recon and discovered the layout of your house, you might as well just go ahead and set off some sounds and put your ringtone on high, walk through the house with a cell phone on, just let them know where you're at, because that's pretty much how I view flashlights and lasers.
Well, there's a couple of things at play, I guess. We just covered a lot. So,
Right.
in my opinion, when you have a pistol or like a pistol like a SIG or an AR pistol or anything like that, if it's for self-defense, it should be set up for a particular role. So whatever kind of accessories that you put on it should match that role, like you were talking about, your sighting system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem always goes back to most people don't have training or don't really understand what they're doing, so they'll put things on that don't match. Or, like you see a lot in gun groups, they'll say, oh, hey, I just bought an AR-15. It's a 10-inch barrel or a 7-inch barrel. What should I put on it? And whenever someone does that, my response is always, what's it for? Because depending on what role it's for, that's going to drive what you should put on. If it's just a have fun gun, then you probably don't need backup iron sights, right?
Right.
If it's your home defense or a backpack gun, okay, what engagements are you foreseeing that you might be in? You might just want a red dot. You might want a magnifier, a dot and a magnifier. Or because it might not always be a shot that you're taking. You just might want a PID, right? So it really just depends on what you're doing. Lasers, I'm not a fan of lasers. Like you said, if you're using night vision, you need an IR laser. That's a whole nother ball game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most people are just using the visible laser. Lasers are really for positions where you can't get behind the gun. So if I have a pistol, if I have a handgun, and I'm working with some kind of ballistic shield, I don't want to poke my head out from around the shield to fire, right? So I can put the gun on the outside of the shield and use the laser as my aiming device, right?
Right.
So
That makes
yes, it would work.
sense.
It would work in that sense, right? Or if I'm in some kind of unorthodox position where I just physically can't get my head behind the gun because I'm trying to get under a car, whatever it is, the laser would make sense, right?
Yeah,
But
I can see that
outside
making
of that,
sense.
for the most part, it doesn't have a big role because using it as your main sighting system, it's actually slower than using your regular sights. It's slower than irons. It's slower than a red dot or a green dot, gold dot, whatever color you have.
Hmm.
So people just don't understand how to use it. They don't have it zeroed. They don't know what that means as far as where it's zeroed, because that's going to affect your point of aim, point of impact. They just
Hmm.
think if I put the beam on them, nah, it doesn't work like that. Um, Flashlights are important, in my opinion, for self-defense in low-light situations, because if you're not in a battle zone, then you need the PID. People have shot their cousin because their cousin came over drunk in the middle of the night, whatever, right?
Hmm.
Um, and like once you start taking low light training, you don't keep your light on the entire time. Same thing with your laser. You don't, like, it's not like in the movie where you come to the house with your light on the whole time, or your laser if you have one. Your light is only going to come on when you need to gather information. So you'll shine your light, literally flash your light on off, right?
Hmm.
Get information from what's in the room, move, immediately move, and then repeat if you need to. But you don't just walk around with the light on, because obviously you're a sitting duck. But in self-defense, it's important to know what you're shooting at, or if, to make sure that lethal force is warranted, because you might win the gunfight and end up in prison for the rest of your life. So it's just learning how to use those things in whatever context that you're in. So all of my self-defense guns have lights on them. Pistol, or definitely the rifles and the pistols as well. They all have lights, because half of the day is dark. And if I can't see you, that's an issue. If I need to shoot you, right? It's a self-defense situation. I need to be able to see you. Or I
Yeah.
need to be able to see that the situation has changed and now I don't need lethal force, and maybe I could just control you with the light. But definitely it's good to have if you know how to deploy it. Now, if you're a person that thinks you can just turn the light on and leave it on, then you're in trouble. Because that's not how you
Right.
move it.
And I think that's why it kind of irks me a little bit. And granted, yeah, I've made these mistakes whenever I purchased my firearms. I ended up my Ruger 5.56. I put I did an episode about that. It looks pimped out, but but after a while, I'm like, I'm putting a lot of extra weight on these firearms, so I think that kind of defeats the purpose of even setting the firearm up like that. Why am I putting this on? Why am I putting that on? It's almost like to go back to the AR pistol, example. If I put a bipod on there, like what's
Right.
it's kind of overkill. But like you said, it boils down to the training. Like I didn't even think about the fact that if you're using a riot shield, you wouldn't be able to utilize the actual sights on a firearm. So a laser
Right.
does make sense in that. Or if you're actually aiming from underneath the car, obviously you don't want to hit a certain part of the car because it could ricochet or could maybe set something off. I don't know. I don't know. Action movies, right? That usually happens.
Right, right.
But regardless, it's like I want to make sure that I'm hitting the right target. So that definitely makes sense. But I can see them becoming more of a distraction to the people that purchase them. Because like if the average person goes out and buys a flashlight, they're not going to do the flash like you said and then move to the next area. They're probably going to have the flashlight on, especially seeing as how lumens are a lot more extreme now.
Right.
Had flashlights on, keep the target blind, put the strobe light on so they can continuously blind the target, and then I guess go in for the kill or subdue the person or whatever. But most situations where you're subduing one person, I can guarantee you there's probably gonna be another person out there. So boom, you just made yourself a target. So, but that's the untrained mind. Just like with lasers, like you said, they're gonna put the beam on them. Okay, cool. So I see the
Right.
beam, I see what's going on. Now
Right.
I can handle the situation. It's like you said, it boils down to the training. And if you're not willing to get training in order to learn what you're putting on your firearm, then maybe you shouldn't put it on there.
Yeah. And training will also expose what works and what doesn't. Like even outside of the learning how to use it, you could have something on your firearm and go to a training course and you're like, okay, that's not going to work. Case in point, I went to ISI, which is Iron Sharpens Iron. I didn't go this year. I went last year. Long story short, we're on the firing line and we're doing a weapons manipulation drill where you have to rack your gun off your belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the brothers had his rear sight was kind of sloped at an angle. So there weren't any sharp corners, like no right angles. So for him, it was really hard to rack his gun off his belt or off his holster, or off his boot or whatever, because of the contour of his, or the geometry of his rear sight. So that was a light bulb for the brother, like, okay, I need to change that, right? But that's not something you may have even noticed or even thought about until either A, you're in that situation and now it's too late, or B, you're in a training course where you're like, okay, this is where I should fail, or it's okay to fail because this is where I'll learn, right? So it's just small things like that you might pick up just by going to these courses, man. It's just so important. And shooting isn't intuitive, man. We're not born with the genetic memory to know how to shoot. It's not like a lion and you know, it just doesn't work that way.
Like you're born with a set of claws, you know how to use them for birth. Yeah, you're right.
You don't have instincts that make you a shooter.
You're right.
And I always compare it to a sport. Shooting is like any other sport, whether it's badminton, whether it's lacrosse, football, basketball, tennis, whatever. Once you start the sport, I can go buy a tennis racket, right? And I'm not going to beat anybody. Who am I going to beat? Maybe somebody in the neighborhood, maybe just off athleticism, but I'm not going to beat a tennis player.
You better leave that 5-year-old alone.
Yeah. I don't know the rules. I don't know how to hold the racket. I don't know how to serve. I don't know how to be accurate to make sure my serve is in or goes where I want it to be, or where I want it to go. I don't know how to stand. None of that stuff. But you learn that from a coach. And it's the same thing with shooting. But people just skip that, and they just grab the gun and like, okay, I'm good now. I have a gun. You know, they do their Al Bundy thing. I played high school football and I scored 7 touchdowns. So therefore, I can do anything. You know, it doesn't work that way.
You know, with old school. Well, it's true though. You know, that's the funny thing, because you know, like most people, whenever they purchase clothing, they purchase it because it's got a certain logo on it, it's got a certain name on it. So it's kind of the same thing in the firearms world, because you got people that are brand loyal to HK, Glock, Canik, Smith & Wesson, Ruger, CZ, you know, and it goes on and on. Where do you think most of that brand loyalty comes from?
In my opinion, it usually comes from their first purchase. So if you're a guy that purchases a SIG as their first firearm, you're probably going to be a SIG guy, unless you just have a horrible experience with the gun, right? My first gun was a Glock. I turned out to be a Glock guy. I know the same pattern that's happened for guys with HKs, and sometimes people do change, but usually it's that first gun. As long as they had a positive experience, then it's like, all right, man, you know, Ruger's my thing. I love Ruger. They didn't let me down. People do the same thing with cars. Yeah. I bought a Honda that it ran for, 300,000 miles, or I bought a Toyota, and it, you have that good experience, and you're like, all right, if I buy another one, I'm getting the same brand. I'm not gonna buy anything else because this felt good to me. This worked. And sometimes people get attached to the wrong brands, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I know for me, my first my first handgun was a Canik TP9SF.
Okay.
And my first AR was a Ruger. It was what I could afford at the time, especially considering it was before March of 2020. Actually a little bit around March of 2020, before the prices got too ridiculous. So I was like, okay, cool. And then I also got a Ruger EC9, and then the rest of my handguns were 2 Canics. They got the SC Elite, they got a TP9 SFX, and then I ended up getting a Taurus. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a 44 mag, I think. I still have yet to shoot that gun, but nonetheless, the Canics I liked. I liked the way they felt. I liked the way they shot. The Ruger, though, the handgun, I didn't like it too much. It was weird. I don't know if it was the sights, or I wasn't holding it right, or maybe I don't know what it was, but it just didn't really, it didn't seem like it was on point. And no, I know I needed more training, but I just didn't like it, especially the magazine size too. It's, after 7 shots, that was it. So,
oh wow,
yeah. But ironically enough, I love the PC Charger and I love the PC Carbine. The 5.56, I feel a certain way about it because that's a greasy ass gun. I don't know what it is, but
Okay.
you can fry chicken with that thing, man. Like even for real, that's how greasy it is. Even as it's in my safe right now,
Right.
I can pull the firearm out, extend the stock, and the buffer tube will have just glistening wetness on it. I don't know why. It's weird, and it's always
Came from
been
the
like that.
factory like that? Oh wow.
Pretty much everybody I've met that's had one or has one has said the same thing. So I don't know what it is, but that's it's greasy.
Right. I guess that's how they pack them at the factory. I guess you could always get some degreaser and try to, you know,
No, I mean
get some of that off. I guess.
no, I mean I've cleaned it. No issues. Made sure it was well lubricated. It's just greasy. I don't know what it is. It's like fish fry greasy. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that when the rounds come out, it's gonna turn into mini fireballs or anything. But it's greasy. I don't know why. I think it's just how they made it. Because my other AR doesn't do that. I can collapse the stock and extend it just fine with no layer of grease or whatever. But it's fish fry, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's got to be coming from somewhere though.
Yeah,
It's weird.
I need to do more research on it.
Don't make me tell a lie.
but you do have some people that swear by High Point, and I guess that kind of falls to the whole it is my first purchase, so I'm cool with it type thing.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of High Point at all. It's better than nothing. I think they are more reliable than people give them credit for, though, to be honest with you. But outside of I have to have a gun right now, and this is my only option, there aren't many reasons to own one. If you got to get something right away, then hey, you do what you got to do, and then hopefully you can save up and get, something that's going to be higher quality, or even you can even put guns on layaway, which a lot of people don't realize that a lot of these gun shops you can put something on it. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be all at once, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, unless you have to have it right away, there's no reason to buy a High Point.
Right, and to be honest
Not
with
the
you,
pistol, but
yeah, right. But I think in a sense, Taurus is kind of starting to take over where High Point was leaving off, at least handgun wise. And was it a G3? I think that came out. It got some pretty good reviews. Now, granted, the safety on it was kind of questionable.
Yeah, where it would let you fire it one more time or do something crazy. Like if you, yeah, I don't like Taurus either. I put Taurus in the same boat as High Point in that some of them are reliable. Yes, Taurus has a sketchy history when it comes to quality. They might be getting better. I don't know. I don't want to find out. I don't want to know, for me, I need something to be vetted and actually military or some kind of combat or something along those lines. I need documented proof that this thing, or they tend to be reliable, because you can always get a lemon no matter what brand you buy. But I need that track record. If it doesn't have that track record, I can't deal with it unless, again, that's all you can do. And then my argument against that typically would be, especially because like the G2C, like those small guns, like you can get a Smith & Wesson Shield for the same amount. If you want a small gun, they're about the same price, and the Shield is a tank. Or if you have a couple more dollars, get a cannon.
Yeah, and I, ironically enough, I know Smith & Wesson is a pretty good brand, but I think I just get kind of tired of trying to figure out which Smith & Wesson are you talking about. Oh, I'm talking about the M&P. Which one? Because, they just came out with an M&P 12, which is the only shotgun that they have as far as I know. And then you got the M&P handguns, and then there's the M&P ARs. So at this point, I'm like, which one are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's just
pretty much like all companies. They all have their models, and that's just their military and police line. I think that's what M&P stands for. I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that. They're 2.0s. The M&P line, their pistols are good to go. They make quality stuff.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
People love Taurus, and I know a lot of people, not everybody, but I know a lot of people are buying it because they see the price. And when you don't know any better, you don't know why two pistols that are $200 or $300 apart in price. They're the same size. They shoot the same round. Why one is necessarily better than the other? You can't see that at the counter. You can't feel that when you pick the gun up. Sometimes you can feel. If you pick up a high point, you're gonna know. But some of the other times you can't feel that, or you don't know, and you don't even know what to look for anyway. If you're a new shooter, you're a new gun owner. So you might buy based on price. Unfortunately, that's what a lot of people do. And I'm not knocking anyone that their budget only allows. My thing is, if your budget only allows that price, then buy a Shield.
That makes sense.
That has a much better track record than a Taurus does.
True.
Or like I said, if you have a couple more dollars, Canik is one of the best bangs for your buck, man. You can't beat it. Reliable pistol, and well, I don't know where they are now, but I know pre-COVID you can get a Canik for like $350.
Well, with the last series they came out with, which is the Mete, and I don't know if you've seen it, but that SFX Rival, I think it's already come out in Turkey. And then on top of that, they've come out with their own red dot for the handguns. Canik right now is looking really good, but the only downside of that is the fact that you have to wait on them to import what they come out with from Turkey to the United States. If they're even going to import certain things from Turkey to the United States. I don't know, but you're right. Canik, more bang for your buck. Definitely worth it. But I do hear rumor that if you get the high point that's got the dollar bills on it, you might get a discount. Just a rumor. Don't know how true that is.
I'm gonna get you a yeet cannon, man. Go ahead.
Right. But I've actually heard the rifles are pretty good though. They look weird, but I've heard people swear by them.
My understanding is that their rifles, like the carbine ones, are solid. I still wouldn't buy one, but I think they are solid firearms. But from my understanding, anyway, I've never shot one, so let me put that in there. I don't even think I know anybody that owns one, but from the people that I trust that talk about them, they seem to be okay. But still, in my opinion, there's better options.
Yeah, when it comes down to protecting your life, I don't think okay is going to cut it. But yeah, I hear you. I definitely hear you. And I agree.
That's not the time when you want to cut corners.
Right. So, I know we talked earlier about brand stigma and whether or not we would purchase or not purchase certain firearms based on it. But do you have an interesting story regarding somebody's reason as to not purchasing a certain firearm due to stigma? And was it based on facts or was it based on their feelings?
To be honest, not that I can think of, because I usually don't ask people why they bought something. And then people in my circle normally, I try to discourage people from buying guns sometimes. Now, let me clear that up. Not your first gun, but just gun after gun after gun. Because what happens is someone has 6, 7, 8 guns and they have zero training. So it's like, all right, first of all, you can only shoot one gun at a time. And no matter which one you pick, you can't shoot it. And if you get a malfunction, you can't clear it. And if you need to reload, you can't do that either. Mm-hmm. So it's like, all right, what are we really doing here? Like, now, if you just want to collect and you have zero interest in self-defense, and I have no issue with that, buy 1,000 guns. But if your goal is self-defense, then continuously buying more and more guns isn't logical, in my opinion, unless you're getting training.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I know in the beginning I was kind of guilty of that because at one point I was interested in the whole defense aspect. And then all of a sudden, the more I kept looking, the more the gun started looking a little bit more appealing, if you will, to the point where I was like, "Oh, that one looks cool. I gotta get it quick." Right. And ironically enough, that's how I actually purchased my my PC carbine, because around the time when the PC Charger came out, I mistook the PC carbine for the Charger, and it was extremely hard to find a Charger. So when I went on I think it was ammoseek.com and I looked by gun type, I saw it and it had it listed as the Charger, but there was no picture. So I said, let me get it. Oh, cool. It's got a digital camo pattern on it too. Yeah, I'm getting it. Got that damn gun.
Like, oh.
I mean, it was still cool, and it's pretty good actually. It's accurate. I like it, but I had to quickly go back and find a charger, and it was just mistake after mistake. But when I looked back at it, the amount of money that I spent on the firearms, I could have easily spent on training, to the point where I would probably be proficient in my one Canic I would have had at the time, and my my greasy ass fish fry gun at the time.
Right.
You know, it ain't pretty, but I know how to use it.
Yeah.